everybody, and welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. I'm Shelley Pruitt, and my partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Mr. Ryan Roberts. Good evening, gentlemen.
What's happening?
Evening.
Well, still recovering from the wonderful time we had at the Missouri Paracon.
You telling
Had
me?
so much fun, and got to meet a lot of great people. Just absolutely wonderful all the way around. Such a fabulous time. And then it's right back home and back to business because while
Back
we
to
saw
work, as
all of
usual.
these wonderful
Yeah.
people that present their evidence of the paranormal, we figured why not flip the script? Because we have a guest for you tonight that not only is a paranormal investigator, he's also a paranormal evidence debunker. And he has a YouTube channel that's called Static Voices. He also has a TikTok of the same name, Static Voices. And you're going to be able to catch him this year at Paranormal Rockdown and a bunch of other places that we're going to let him tell you about. So, are you ready to have our guest, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So we want to introduce you, if you don't know him already, Nathaniel Elwell, and he is our paranormal evidence debunker and investigator. Hi, Nathaniel. How are you tonight?
You know, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So, man, we appreciate you coming on.
Well, I tell you, I ran across your videos, I would say about 6 or 7 months ago, and I was fascinated at how you were able to show me how this could be faked. Because a lot of people will see something, they'll be like, I can't explain that, I can't figure out how to work. But you would use technology to show us how that can be done. So, how did you get into the paranormal evidence debunking side of it?
So, obviously, I've been investigating the paranormal for 18 years now. It'll be 18 years in July. And, you know, one of the main things that I've always prided myself on was being skeptical to begin with. So, I'm one of those people that I don't put my evidence online, period, because I don't want other people to see something that I may have missed. And that's what happens a lot of times is people will put stuff out there and they think, oh, well, this is definitely paranormal. And then when you come in and give them an alternative explanation, not that you're saying that's what's going on, they like to get mad about it, which is fine. You know, you protect your evidence. You're proud of it, right? And so that kind of started my interest. But what actually got me into making the videos was an accident. My daughter and me were spending time at the house, I think 3 summers ago. And I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking breakfast, and she's watching an episode of Paranormal Caught on Camera, which if anyone out there watching the show has ever seen my content, I love breaking stuff down from Paranormal Caught on Camera. That and there was another show, The Truth Is Out There. I love doing that show as well. And I'm cooking breakfast and I'm not paying any attention to what she's watching, and all of a sudden I hear a few words on the television that perked my ears up, and I kind of glanced around the corner like this. And she was like, can I help you? I said, yeah. Did that just say Dead Children's Playground? And she was like, yeah, it did. So Dead Children's Playground is a place in Huntsville, Alabama. It's a place that I've physically, personally been. So of course I was interested. I said, pause it. I'll be right there. Go out there. We start watching the video. The guy's basically telling you about how the swing is moving on its own, seemingly as a child sitting in the swing. I'm watching the video and I just start chuckling to myself. And she was like, what are you laughing about? I was like, there's nothing paranormal going on here. And she was like, what are you talking about? The swing is moving on its own. I said, yep, rewind it a little bit. Use the slow motion. I'm going to walk you through this. So she rewound it. She put it on slow motion. I was like, first things first, what the guy said was there was no wind that day, right? She said, yeah. I was like, look at the tree branches. See how they're swaying? There's definitely a breeze. I said, look in the background. Notice how the water on the lake has white caps. That tells me the water's choppy. If the water's choppy, there's a breeze. Also notice that is a handicap swing. So if you have a breeze that's strong enough and it catches that swing just right, it's going to move. I was like, what you're looking at here is a swing moving based on the wind. That's it. There's nothing paranormal here. And she looked at me and she was like, why don't you do that on TikTok? And that's literally how it started.
Ain't from the mouth of babes.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, kids say the darndest things.
That is 100% how that whole thing started.
Wow.
And,
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Blake. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, there are some that are on Paranormal Caught on Camera that obviously you can see it, and you're like,
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Like, no, there have been some on there that like I'll rewind, I'll stop, I'll play back that I'm like, I don't know.
But that is part of
Yeah.
the fun of that show
Right.
is going,
Yeah.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on. And then there's some you go, wow, but that's part of the fun of the show is that you get to be your own debunker every time a piece of that of their evidence comes up. But I have
Correct.
to tell you, I appreciate people who take a good look at the evidence because I know that any evidence we put up, it's gone through my eyes, through Blake's eyes, through Ryan's eyes, and usually through two or three other people's eyes, and
Mhm.
saying, is there any way? Because if you as a paranormal investigator you can't be married to your evidence, you have
Right.
to
Right.
look at everything. And I always tell somebody, and our rule is if one of us sees anything that could
Hmm.
make it appear not credible, we won't show it because
Right.
Yes.
credibility should be the number one thing for a paranormal
And
investigator.
and when we've caught some great stuff, but there's that one little question of doubt, and we're just like, nope, we can't show that to anybody
We throw
else.
it out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. As soon as you have that small question of credibility or doubt, that's automatically pushed to the wayside.
Hmm.
Right. Right. And we have shown some where we say, look, the camera does cut away, but we were there. We can tell you this actually happened. But that it has to be a really, really credible piece of evidence
Right.
that we have witnesses that you can see in the room. And our fortunately,
Right.
the people that stay with us and watch our show, they'll hop on and they'll go, I was there, this happened.
Yeah.
So, that's a good thing. So what would you say is the number one tool that you use in order to debunk or validate a piece of evidence?
I'll be honest with you. Every single video that I make for TikTok, right? I literally do it on my iPhone. I don't have any other
Cool.
thing that I use. I download a video, I go through and I do it frame by frame. Those 1 minute videos that people watch that I make take me about 2 weeks to put together and about 2 or 3 hours to film because I'm kind of a perfectionist. So if I mess up, I start
Mhm.
over.
Yeah.
And it's going through frame by frame. It's taking the ability to take your phone and using the edit and using all of your filters properly, raising up, the sharpness, dropping the definition, doing all different kinds of things as far as editing wise, and then going through the still framing and looking for small things as far as film cuts, string movement, monofilament fishing lines, the hardest to see, but I have seen people use regular fishing line. It's very easily detectable. And so there's a lot of factors that go in, but when it comes down to actually debunking things, my favorite thing to look at is audio work.
Hmm.
So audio work, it fascinates me because EVPs, they just fascinate me, period. And that's actually hence the reason of my TikTok handle, Static Voices, because it's
Right.
voices that come from the static.
Mhm.
And I'm actually working on developing a program. It's just about done where I can take EVPs, input them into this program, and it can break EVPs down to the human vocal range. So you can tell whether or not it's
Cool.
actually in the actual decibel range of a human voice.
Oh, wow.
That's really interesting. So,
Hmm.
as someone who is a paranormal researcher, if you had to hedge your bets, what would you say that we are actually hearing when we hear an EVP? Because, everyone's always like, hey, you have to have vocal cords to vibrate the air to make that noise. What do you think it is?
That's actually a really good question and one I've never been asked before. I'm not really sure. Could it be plausibly someone shuffling their feet? I've seen that happen before, and it does cause a lot of weird noises. Obviously, someone's stomach growling, that happens a lot. But what we're actually hearing, it would be to me knowing how physics works. Yes, not having the vocal cords to actually be able to emit the voice, right?
Hmm.
That's weird. However, are they technically emitting a voice or are they modifying the electromechanics of the device and imprinting themselves onto the magnetic strip within the recorder itself? So they're not actually using a voice, they're modifying the device.
Oh, that's very interesting. I've never thought about that before. That's a really good point.
So okay, so just quick because I'm curious about this software and program that you're in development on. So if it is to detect human decibels and the human voice range, if we don't have basically kind of it's a twofold question, I guess you could say, since
Okay.
tying into this previous question, if you need vocal cords to be able to manipulate the air to be able to make the sound, how are you able to use the software to detect a human range? Is it just basically off sound wave registration or
Yes.
decibels alone? Okay. All right.
So it's basically, it takes the sound waves and it shows them on a graph, and the sound waves fall into a certain decibel range.
Gotcha.
So that's basically how it works. But once again, it's experimental. I don't know if it's
Right.
even going to work at all.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think everything is experimental in the paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're
Everything.
actually out investigating and capturing stuff, or if you're trying to debunk or validate, it's all experimental because it's the paranormal.
Right.
You know?
It's a
So
glor-
essentially, you're working with frequencies,
yes.
which has got to be what this is, right? It's a frequency that, or maybe a spirit that just imprinted their frequency, maybe using static, this, like you said, the static in the
Yeah.
air to imprint on this. Okay. So have you ever worked with frequencies before? Because we have a friend who likes to work with frequencies and will play these different frequencies from the lowest to the highest decibels. And whenever they get up to a certain range out of the human hearing range, we tend to get a lot of activity that comes up whenever we cannot hear what's being played.
Okay.
What's your opinion on that?
So it's similar to a dog whistle, right? You blow
Right.
it, you know there's noise coming out, but we can't physically hear it.
Mhm.
However, when you go to certain ranges of frequencies, as far as like there's actually a frequency called the ghost frequency, which is a form of infrasound. And when you hit the infrasound level of the ghost frequency, it actually causes your eyeballs to vibrate, which can cause you to hallucinate. So that's one thing you have to take into a factor there, okay? So if you're going too low, you can actually cause yourself physically to see things. If you go too high, realistically, we may not be able to hear it, right? But I'm sure our nervous system within our bodies has something going on that we
Right.
just are not aware of. Do I think that it's a good tool to try and use? I mean, I'd be interested.
Do you think that it can be manipulated then if someone knows that at this certain frequency that they can make your eyes vibrate or water or cause you to hallucinate? Do you think that someone could potentially, like I don't know, do something similar to an EMF pump, but do with a frequency, kind of fill that building with that frequency and then cause things to happen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why a lot of investigators out there are not a lot, I guess. It's kind of a niche group, but a lot of them will use infrasound. They bring in a very low frequency pump, and they put out this sound, and they fill a whole location with it or a whole room with it just to see what happens. And there has been times whenever you play these low frequency sounds that activity does indeed seem to ramp up a little bit.
It's very interesting you say something about the eyeballs because we actually, one of us on the team, Ryan, you have an experience whenever paranormal activity starts to happen, or
Right.
we visually see something that causes your eyes to water.
Yeah, my eyes like not like well up like I'm about to like cry, but not I don't feel like I'm about to cry, just like the water collects in my eyes and I'll start to it's weird. I can't that's the best
Interesting.
way I can describe it. Yeah.
So that's interesting that you have the ghost frequency that causes the eyeball vibrations. I just wonder if that has something to play.
I wonder if it does.
Sorry,
That's
it was just
no,
a thought
fine.
that went through my head and I had to get it out.
So
don't
it
know.
very well could, depending on where you're at. Certain generators will put off that frequency. Certain air conditioning units can put off that frequency. So there are a lot of things, especially if like you go to a place like Sloss Furnaces where it's a bunch of old machinery, right?
Right.
A lot of that old machinery gives off that frequency. So I mean, obviously you're not going to start up anything at the furnace while you're there. Let's be honest. But,
Right.
But in theory, if you go by the stone tape theory that everything is collected within the location and then projected back, right? People claim to hear the machinery running. So are the phantom sounds of the machinery, could they plausibly put out that same frequency that they've absorbed into the atmosphere?
Could be. Wow.
I don't know. Could they?
I mean, with the whole the ghost frequency, it sounds like the sound equivalent to like an unusually high EMF that'll cause you to hallucinate or have experiences. That's very interesting. I've never even heard of the ghost frequency until now. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So you're talking about electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Right, where you're going to a very, very, what they call a fear cage, basically.
Right.
It's where you're in an area, say it has unshielded wires or very old wiring, and there's just no way to escape the EMF, and it's a constant onslaught. And yeah, it can cause people to get physically sick, it can cause hallucinations, it can cause headaches, it can cause all kinds of havoc.
Yeah, that's one of the first things whenever we get like a residential call or something like that. That's one of the first things that we do when we get in there is we do your EMF readings. And we have gone to some where it's just like you go into one section and there's just astronomical EMF spikes. And you're and then you hold it up next to like an outlet or a power cable or whatever cables or a stove or whatever, and you're like, holy
Mhm.
crap, you don't need a paranormal investigator, you need an electrician, my
It's
friend.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually told someone that before. Well, we went to Bobby Mackey's, and that was
Yep.
one of the first things we noticed were these huge towers, over the edge of the Bobby Mackey's property.
The power lines right by the highway right there.
I mean, part of it crossed over one part of the building, and that was one of the parts of the building that people would see things in. So we were kind of like, okay, does this have something to do with it? I didn't see anything in that building, so I don't know, but I didn't investigate it because I was afraid my
Right.
evidence would be, corrupted. So
I mean, no, but we busted out the K2 meter before walking in, and I mean, it was tacked all the way out, like right by
Wow.
that front door area. So that could have been feeding what was happening, or it could have caused people to hallucinate for sure.
Yeah, and to Blake's point, it's one of the first things that I always do is I do a preliminary EMF sweep every time. That's the first thing you should do. And when I do that, though, I'm also sketching out the locations. I'm sketching out the rooms. I'm marking trip hazards because we're in there. It's dark. You don't always have a flashlight. I also walk the property and I make markings of any kind of power lines going to the house that could be a pinpoint for high EMF. I make notes of any power lines running close to the house that I could check on. So there's a lot of things that should be done that a lot of people don't do, and that's okay. It's everyone's own prerogative of how they investigate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So you're wanting to eliminate all of that right off the bat, and once you can eliminate that, okay, this particular area doesn't have any kind of spikes in EMF, that's where you want to investigate, because then you're more likely, if something happens in that area, you've already taken out those factors.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead, Shelley.
I was going to say, if you have something on that same line, I was about to change. I was about to go to, how about the pictures? Because I am a picture person, and I'm the one that will take up the brightness, take down, the black point, take
Yep.
brighten it, sharpen it, take up contrast. And if I can't make it disappear, it's really there. But I make a lot of things disappear just by playing with that slider bar. And if you make it disappear, it's probably a light bouncer or something like that. You're right. People do get very upset when you say, "Oh, I can make this disappear." So I've gotten to the point where I say, "That's interesting."
That's
Okay,
interesting.
if you want to enjoy that, you go ahead, because I'm not going to raid on your parade. And hey, I don't know everything about this. All I know is that if it was me, I probably wouldn't put that piece of evidence out. But you do you, boo.
Yeah.
So.
And I've gotten to that point too, where if I see something like that, I pretty much just give it a thumbs up and keep moving, because you get tired after a while. You get tired of people berating you about telling them, hey, this could possibly be natural, and they just instantly get upset about it.
Right.
So, but yeah, you're right. Adjusting the contrast, the black point, doing all of that stuff. If you can make it disappear within the photo, then it most likely is some kind of reflection of light, refraction of light. It could be, dust. It could be multiple different things. And this is why I miss the old school, which I still use mine, 35 millimeter film cameras, where you can get the negative, because if it appears on the negative, it's physically in the photo.
Right.
So I missed that. I actually have a camera over there that I use. It takes floppy disks.
Oh wow.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I run the gambit when it comes to cameras, because every single one of them could catch something different. So I got my 35 millimeter. I've actually got a 1967 Bell & Howell 8 millimeter camera that I use.
Oh wow.
And,
Wow.
film for that thing is expensive, so I don't use it very often. It's got to be a special location.
I can imagine.
But that's the thing. Experiment with different kinds of equipment. Use your ejector film Polaroid. Go and get yourself a cheap trap camera that's got IR. Try the trap camera out. See what it does. Experiment.
I think I think the important thing is that, like, because anybody can be an investigator. Let's put it that way. Like, anybody can go out and you can investigate a location.
Yeah.
But I think what the more important thing is about being an investigator, or even a paranormal researcher, is that you have to have this ability to be able to debunk your own evidence, and willingness to debunk your own evidence, as well as let other people view it so that they could potentially debunk it. And like you said earlier, not get mad about it.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. Like, don't get upset if somebody gives you that plausible reason, because if you haven't thought about it and it hadn't crossed your mind and they bring it up, then that's something that you need to double check. And if you double check it and you can't say, no, that's not what it is, then you may not have captured something paranormal.
Right. And
I love these kind of conversations.
If I put a piece of evidence out there and someone came to me and said, dude, that's not paranormal and this is why, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove that piece of evidence online.
Right.
And
absolutely.
that's where the conversation needs to end. I'll just say thank you. I didn't notice that. The question's there. It's doubtful, and you pull it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had someone become very angry with you when you showed them that maybe what they caught was not, in fact, paranormal?
Oh, are you kidding me? I've been blocked by about 18 different accounts on TikTok.
Oh my God.
And that is no lie. As a matter of fact, what I typically do is I'll download the video straight from TikTok, and then I favorite the video so I can find it later. And what's been happening recently is when I favorite the video, I've had content creators contact me and ask me not to do their video. Why? Is that because you're hiding something? Or is it because you just don't want me to do your video? I mean, it could go either way, but to me, if you approach me, if you know my content and you say, hey, could you please not do my video? I feel like you're trying to pull a little bit of effery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know what, that is so frustrating whenever, as paranormal investigators, we see some of these things that are put out, and you see it and it looks for the moment to be credible, and you go back and you watch it and you're going, wait a minute, this is not what that is. Why are they? And that kind of takes away the credibility of those investigators who are genuinely trying to put out legitimate evidence to show what we're all looking for, which is proof of something beyond this life. So
Right.
when you have people that are maybe not faking it on purpose, but just have something that they're putting out and it isn't legitimate, that kind of takes away the credibility from the whole field.
Right. And
But
that was something else I was going to touch on later, exactly what you just said. Because sometimes there are videos that I find from people who are just getting into the paranormal. They don't know what they're looking at. And I try my best with every single video I do to be respectful in how I say things. It's not like I'm calling anyone stupid. I'm not cussing you out.
no,
I'm
you're
literally
very good.
I literally just give you an alternative explanation. And there has been times when I've reviewed someone's video and they've contacted me and they've said, I never saw that. And so there is positive feedback along with the negative. Sometimes people aren't looking per se to be famous. They're looking for someone to guide them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have 18 years experience, why not guide them if they're willing to take the help?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the fakes. Let's talk about the fakes.
Let's do it.
Because you know me, I'm not going to shy away from nothing.
No.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about faking stuff. Now, I'm not going to ask you to tell me any of the people that you have, because I have seen a couple that you have said this is absolutely not paranormal. You didn't flat out call them a fake, but you say this can be done this way, and this way. Just randomly in your mind, picture the one that you know in your head was the fakest one you ever saw. Tell me what you saw and how you found it. Don't say the name. You can just picture one in your head.
I really want to say these people's names. I'm not going to lie
Nope.
because I cannot stand this content creator, but I'm not going to do it.
Nope, don't do it.
I won't. But there was a video that I had done, and I actually got a very rude response from the content creator about it, which is why I
Wow.
really don't like these people.
Mhm.
And they have since blocked me, of course. But so they did a video of this portal opening up at the ceiling, and silverware and crosses falling from this portal. Right?
I
Okay.
have seen
So
this video.
I will tell you, it did not look horribly done the way that they edited it. It was pretty fluid. It looked good.
Mhm.
But the thing was when I went through and I did the still framing process, I noticed that the objects that came out of the portal didn't appear until about 3 seconds after the portal had already disappeared.
Okay.
So where did they fall from? They just fell from thin air? I don't think so. So when I went back and I started doing the still framing, I did a little bit of editing as far as brightening it up a little bit. I removed some contrast. I actually darkened the video a little bit. And you can actually see little strings where they edited out, like little tiny little blurry lines where they edited out
Oh.
the actual objects that were dropping from the ceiling. So as soon as the portal closed, they reintroduced these objects into the frame.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you don't know what you're looking for. And I even contacted my sister who owns she does photography for a living. That's her profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I contacted her and I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing here. What is your thought? And she was like, no, that's exactly what it looks like to me. So made that video, got a very rude response from the content creator. I did another one of their videos out of spite. And they blocked me. So
How did they make the portal on the ceiling open up? I have to know how they did that.
So according to my sisters, because she went and watched the video, she does a lot with Adobe, right?
Right.
And she kind of showed me how it could be done with Adobe Photoshop. So I don't use Photoshop personally.
I don't know
I'm
how.
not,
So
I'm not a fan of it. But she pretty much showed me how you could do it frame by frame and then incorporate it into a video. So definitely could be done with Adobe. But the thing was, this content creator claimed that they don't have any editing software, that they don't use editing software.
What? No. Well, to upload it to TikTok, you got to edit it. What are you? Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So they
Yeah, like-
basically it was the erasing of the strings holding the silverware is what really gave it away for you.
That was what really
Wow.
what really stood out to me. And it's something that if I hadn't taken down the contrast and I had not darkened the video a little bit, I honestly probably would have overlooked it.
It was
And
that well done.
it was decently done.
I think that's I'm just gonna speak for myself. This is
Uh-huh.
just my personal opinion. It's not even the opinion of EVP. This is just my opinion. Those are the ones that irritate the dog piss out of me. I'm just gonna freaking say it because it's like, why are you going so? And I know it's just for views and likes and clicks and all of that kind of stuff, but it just they irritate me because when we're out here trying to put up pieces of we've got a video of a door closing on command when we ask it to and it closes. And when we have that next to these ones that have silverware falling out of a portal and it's obviously faked, or well, whenever you look at it, I mean, those are the ones that piss me off because it's like, here we are, we've gone through everything and hours upon hours of this little 18-second clip looking at every angle. And we post
And when it happened, we spent an hour and a half trying to make it do it again.
Right.
We tried to make it happen again for an hour and a half, and we could not get it to do it again. At which we filmed us trying, running past it, jumping around, which was never what happened whenever the door slammed shut. We were showing that with the temperature, with the air conditioning systems and all that was
checking
turned
for
off.
drafts, and we closed doors and everything else.
We were closing other doors as hard as we could to see, and it never moved after that. So, but then you've got some guy going, "Oh, let me drop somewhere from the ceiling and look at the string."
What I was saying is, like, whenever you put that video compared to the one, let's say, of the portal, and it gets found out to be fake, as they typically always do. Whenever you're faking something, it always seems to come out that it was fake.
It will come to light.
And then these are like, oh, this is fake over here. Therefore, this video that EVP put out because of the store closing is also fake because we just can't believe that that's going to happen, and it just irritates the hell out of me that they intentionally are making fake shit
because 100%. It waters down the credibility of anybody out there doing the real work.
Yes, it does. Yep, it does.
And I agree with you. Those are the videos that aggravate me the most. So pretty much anytime I see one of those, I save it, I favorite it, and I'm going to get back to it.
And you get blocked immediately.
It's like, why even put that stuff out into this world? Because people are going to do their due diligence, and someone is going to go back and, like you did, look frame by frame to see what is going on here, and it's gonna be found out. So just don't even. That's just bad practice in the first place.
Yeah. And I kind of like the weird pale crawler and rake videos too. Like those are interesting to me. But next summer when it's a little bit warmer out and not so cold here in New Hampshire, I'm gonna start recreating some of those videos. So if you want to know how that's done, just keep an eye out because I'm gonna run around in this thing out in the woods and show you how this looks in low light and show you how people are making these pale crawler and rake videos.
Oh, dude, there's gonna be some poor guy out there like not minding his own business and sees you coming.
I can only hope.
Well, my favorite one of these. Let's go to the cryptid videos then about faking all of that stuff. So one of my favorite ones that I saw recently, I actually covered him on our podcast, was Slender Man, and they're like, look at the Slender Man moving into the in the distance or whatever, and it's like, no, dude, that's like grass that's right up on the lens that's just blurred out. That's looking like a tall, slender figure. Like, come on, man.
And here's the thing. And the thing is, Slender Man, if you want to go back to all technicalities, not even really considered a cryptid. If I'm not mistaken, it started off as a creepypasta.
It did.
Right, yep.
So when you take a creepypasta, right, and then it becomes some kind of creature that people are seeing, in the paranormal, we call that a thought form or an egregore.
Yep.
And basically the mass amount of people thinking about this creature basically formulated it into some form of metaphysical reality that people are physically seeing.
Right.
And I hate the Slender Man thing. Like I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Now-
I would have to agree. I mean, like I said, I did a whole podcast episode over him, and at the end of it, do I think that Slender Man is real? No.
And what wasn't it in like I think it was like may have been Wisconsin where
Yeah.
those two
Yep.
girls stabbed their
Yep.
friend.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
that was crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, over a creepypasta.
Yeah.
Over a creepypasta. Yeah, absolutely.
It's insane.
Now, adversely, what is one thing that you have seen that's come across your desk that you're just like has blown your mind completely and you just cannot explain?
Okay, so there is a video that went viral several years ago. Basically, you're looking at a stoplight and there's this ball that comes down from the stoplight. It's really wispy, right? It hovers for a second and then it seems to almost like skip across the parking lot. And as it gets to the end of the parking lot, it actually seems to formulate into a human-like figure and continue walking down the road. So Ryan, if you're interested to see that video, I'll share it to you. I have no problem with that after the podcast. And I could not figure out any way to explain this video. I tried. I sat on this video and I looked at it for at least 4 months before I finally sat down and said, you know what? I've got nothing. Because my initial thought was editing, right? Because that could be the obvious thought. Until you actually watch the ball bounce across the parking lot. Now, the parking lot's a little bit damp because it had just rained a few hours beforehand. I have seen video editing done this day that's very good that cannot replicate a shadow movement on the ground that goes in unison with the actual movements of what you're looking at.
Right.
And it had everything that I would expect from a true paranormal video.
Wow.
Do you want to share whose video that was? Because if somebody did something that's really cool, yeah, we're happy to share it. Do you remember the name of?
I actually do not remember the name of the lady. However, she actually saw my video on YouTube, the original filmer, and she contacted and she was like, I'm happy to hear that you think it's real. She's like, because I promise you, I didn't do any kind of fakery. It's not fake. And she was like, I've also seen a few of your other videos, and it really astounds me that this stumped you of all people. And I'm like, look, I'm not that damn famous. Stop it. And there was another video that was sent to me by David Childers. Love David Childers. He's a good guy. And he sent me a video that I think was in an old fort. And you see this shadow come out of a wall. And it goes to the center of the room and it dissipates. And then it comes back and it goes through the other side of the wall. And then it's either another shadow or the same one comes back through that wall and then goes out of the door that's in frame. So here's the thing. If it was a filter of some kind, right, I would expect to see some kind of glitching as it moves through because of how fluid the movement was. You would see little maybe stop and goes, right? When it hit the wall, it did not formulate to the wall like it would with a filter. A filter, I would expect it to hit the wall and just kind of squish up as you take it out. I wasn't seeing that here. It literally maintained shape as it went into the wall.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Man.
And that one blew my mind.
Wow. And I mean, go ahead, Blake.
I was just gonna say, because see, some of these like that you know, when you're talking about squishing into the wall and whatnot, so even as paranormal investigators who've looked at countless evidence videos, some of those that are fake are hard to differentiate between the two. If you don't know exactly, I have been fooled by some of them until I watched it for about the 35th time, and I'm like, wait a minute, there it is.
Yep. And I've had that happen.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there are videos that I've done in the past that I'll sit there and, like I said, you know, sometimes I'll sit weeks on these things and I'll watch them multiple times. And I'll watch it and I'm like, man, I've got nothing for this. What is this? And then there's that one little thing that I notice, one little small thing, and that's the area I focus on. And then I kind of backtrack from that area and I start seeing other things. And I'm like, okay, I got you. I know what's going on.
Question with the videos then, because just in case anybody's watching, because you know, our people, they love to watch all these paranormal videos and stuff. What are you finding commonalities between these videos as you've done multiple of them? Like, oh, it's always, I don't know, the blurry line of something being held. It's always the shadow squishing into the wall. Is there a commonality of sorts that you're seeing?
Not, to be honest, not that I've noticed. They all seem to be done very differently. Some of them are more well done than others. Especially like the cryptid ones. Like I've done a couple cryptid videos in the past of Sasquatches being seen. And recently I did one about a creature that was in the water. It was really long and translucent. And excuse me. but that one was actually kind of fun because it took me a little bit to figure out what it was. But very natural creature, nothing paranormal, but it had a hydrostatic skeleton, so it had to be in deep water or else the skeletal structure would break apart. So when it came to the surface and the guy was trying to pick it up with the oar of his kayak, pieces kept breaking off, and everyone's like, oh, what is it? Well, it's just a creature that has a hydrostatic skeleton and needs to be under severe pressure in order for it to hold together.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
Um,
Look at you
yeah.
knowing all kinds of biology too.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the point of like being, you know, when you're looking at debunking things. I mean, if you're trying to prove something that there is life beyond or other realms or creatures within the same realm that we exist in or dimension we exist in, I mean, I think you kind of have to know about almost a little bit of everything. It seems like, you know, I mean, you got to know about the environment, you got to know biology, you got to know animals, you got to, I mean, just so you can rule things out as you go along.
Right.
Yeah, because there was this video I did probably about a year ago of someone claiming that they caught a baby raptor running through a field. And after figuring out where the footage was actually filmed at, I was able to pretty much put side by side the raptor and the picture of a creature known as the greater roadrunner, which is known to exist in that area. And it's literally all it is. It's a roadrunner that runs through the screen, but it was on the IR cam and it was a little bit blurry. So the person just probably honestly didn't know what they were looking at.
And they had something legitimately on the camera. They just didn't know what it was, so they jumped to cryptid.
Right.
So I have a question about the cryptids. So you mentioned something about debunking a Sasquatch video. What is the number one things you look for in debunking that?
Ghillie suits.
Ghillie suits.
People in ghillie suits. It's the number one most common thing that I've noticed because Sasquatch costumes do not look that great. But from a distance, you can very easily confuse a person wearing a ghillie suit as a massive creature.
I could see that. Absolutely. I mean, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and ghillie suits, you have to remember, they come in all different shapes and colors. So you have some that are really long and shaggy. You have some that are more close to the body. Depending on the area you're hunting in will depend on the coloration and or the type of ghillie suit you're going to want to buy. So you have to take that into account too. So when I see a video that I think is a Bigfoot, I want to know where the video was shot. Once I find out where the video was shot, I want to know what the area around the video looks like. So I go and try and see if I can find satellite photos. Because once I start seeing the trees and I see the shrubbery and I notice what the surroundings look like, I can kind of narrow down what kind of ghillie suit they would use.
That's awesome that you're able to zero in that much.
I have a really
right
I know, me too, but I have a really random ass question that has nothing to do about debunking the paranormal past. Just because your mind, man, is so freaking fascinating the way it works. Have you ever tried taking on a cold case?
I have not.
The way where your brain goes whenever you bring in and process information, you're like, oh, I need to check this, I need to check that, Do you go in different ways, like with the hydrostatic exoskeleton? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Never would have even thought of that. I ain't gonna lie. That's why I don't do cryptids.
There was another one that I had done with a creature that looked like a scorpion almost, and it had a really long tail to it, and everyone was like, "Oh, I don't know what this thing is. It's creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy." I happen to know exactly what it was because there was a point in time where I lived in Nevada, so I saw the video. I was like, I went through and I showed them my whole process and stuff, and I was like, "It's a vinegaroon. It's also known as a giant whip-tailed scorpion." Is what it is. So they're not poisonous. They have pinchers, but they're called a vinegaroon because their tail actually secretes a fluid that's an acetic acid to blind possible predators, and it smells identical to white vinegar.
Oh, okay.
So
see,
I gotta go look for one of those now, man. That sounds creepy as all hell. I gotta go check that out.
Amazon, you can buy one for about $45.
Oh, for real?
Alive?
Good to know.
I included that in my video. So
really, I used to live in Nevada too, and I never saw one of those. But I'm an inside cat, so
they're not common. And if you have animals such as cats or dogs, they typically will not enter the house. It's like they know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, since we're talking about cryptids, let's go to the original cryptid viral video, the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
You read my mind, Ryan.
I think as far as Bigfoot footage goes, right?
Right.
It is probably, in my opinion, some of the best footage I've seen.
Okay.
I do not think, as much as I think it was it might have been Robert Gimlin came out later and claimed it was a person in a suit. I saw the suit that was claimed to be used in that video.
Mm-hmm.
It did not look anything like Patty. Nothing.
Okay.
And here's the thing: the way that it moves, the fluid gait, you can physically see the muscles in the arms and the legs flexing as it moves.
Mhm.
You would not see that in a suit. It doesn't
No.
matter how well made that suit was. And we've all probably seen the original Planet of the Apes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Take that ape suit and tell me you're going to be able to put that into that kind of scenario and recreate that exact effect. You're not going to be able to.
Right.
The only thing that struck me as odd about that video, to be honest, was the way the creature turned and looked at them and then continued walking as though it knew they were there. It purposely looked back at them. That is the only questionable aspect for me on that video, because I don't think the way it stared directly at the camera was strange.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're going to go with authentic Bigfoot footage, that's probably going to be your holy grail. I think it's a great video. I think it's well shot. And if it is a fake, then it is very well done.
Well, have you seen anything since then that was as well shot of a Bigfoot?
No.
Okay.
Wow.
I haven't.
Well, and I think that I don't know if y'all, I don't know because I didn't check a date on when this came out, but recently, within the last couple of days, I don't know if it's recirculating or is new or something, but there is a new video of the Patterson Gimlin footage where they have completely stabilized the camera.
Oh yeah,
and tracked it and followed it, and then did a lot more clarity and sharpness on it. That may be a few years old by now, everything, but it just happened to see it for the first time a couple of days ago, and that's me. That was the first time I ever noticed, like you were saying, the muscles.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit. Like, that's a whole different dimension to it.
So I have seen the stabilized footage that you're talking about. And it definitely does show it clearer. And you can actually see the definition in the calf muscle, believe it or not.
right.
Like as it walks, you can see the calf muscle physically flex.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also properly see the length of the arms as it's walking. Those arms, they literally are ape-like. They come down
Right.
almost mid-thigh below the waist. And the gait itself is almost impossible to replicate.
Yeah.
Right. So unless you got a hairy bodybuilder hanging out in the woods, you don't know, you're going to say that's legit.
I honestly think that's probably one of the best pieces of any kind of paranormal evidence I've ever seen.
Wow.
Okay.
So have you ever seen a photo or we're still going Bigfoot here, a photo or a video that convinced you that it might be legitimate? And let's go with photo. Have you seen a photo of a Bigfoot that you think could be legitimate? Because this weekend we were at a Paracon, and there was a girl who walked up and had the most fascinating photo. She lives on all this land, and she snapped a picture. And I'm going to tell you, I looked at that. I said, "Can I have your phone?" I messed with it, and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm asking, have you ever seen one like that?
I personally have never seen a Bigfoot photo that wasn't slightly blurry. So I can honestly say, for me, as soon as you get that blurriness factor, it's too much that could cause that effect as far as a hunter in the distance or multiple other things. That's where my mind goes. As soon as, if I can get a perfectly clear shot, not blurry, clear, so I can actually physically look at it to make sure I'm looking for openings here where it could be a costume. I'm looking for the
Or
inside of the eyes.
sleeves.
Or sleeves. I mean, there's multiple things that you can look at as long as the photo's clear. But the issue is almost every one that I've ever seen is just blurry. It's no good.
Yeah.
Why is that? Do you think Bigfoot sends out some kind of infrasound that messes with your camera film?
So believe it or not, that actually is a theory that Bigfoot puts off a sound wave that can actually modify electric devices. Hence the reason you don't get good, clear shots of the creature.
See, Shelly, you knew something without even trying, girl.
See, there
Look
you go.
at I do pay attention on occasion.
When you go back to the case, because obviously I think they just proved it now of the Delatlov Pass, right?
Yeah.
Back then, people said that they saw a Bigfoot, right? There's a supposed photo that exists that I've seen, but I don't think it's a Bigfoot. But they were claiming that they would hear these low rumbling noises, and the noise would disappear, and then they would start feeling physically ill. So if there was indeed some kind of Sasquatch or Yeti out there in that area of the world, it would be a Yeti. If there was a Yeti out there emitting this said infrasound, then it could make them physically sick. So the theory is that yes, that's possible, that they can manipulate your device based off of the sound output that they have. Hence the reason you really can't get a clear photograph.
So would you think that would be a biological feature or a paranormal feature that they possess?
I would honestly think biological,
Okay.
because
Well,
maybe it's a self-defense mechanism.
Okay.
That's kind of where my brain goes with a self-defense, self-preservation mechanism, to where it can, if they detect maybe a predator or something like that.
Right. And
that's when it gets shot out.
And when people go through, like I told, well, I didn't tell you this earlier, but I thought I said it out, but I didn't. But a lot of people see my stuff and they think I'm a firm disbeliever. But it's actually the exact opposite. I have experienced so much in my time that I know the paranormal exists. I firmly believe in cryptids. I've actually personally seen a Bigfoot twice, what I think was a Bigfoot, down in Alabama, and I saw them within 2 months of each other. So do I believe that Bigfoot exists? I believe there's something out there that we're seeing that can't be explained. I believe millions of people are seeing something that cannot be explained. There's just no physical evidence. We don't have DNA. We don't have a body. I mean, maybe Bigfoot cannibalizes their dead. Maybe they bury their dead. Maybe they really
I
are.
never even thought about that.
Maybe they are an interdimensional being that can be here 1 second, gone the next, which is a wild, what kind of out there theory. But if you think about it, so many people say that they're so human-like. If they were so human-like, there would be a very good plausibility that they actually bury their dead, which is why we've never found a physical specimen.
It's true.
That is a
I
very
like
good
the
point.
idea that they eat each other better. Yeah.
I said,
well, see, that was the point that I was going to make and ask you about is that you're not dead. You're not like what we would classify as a normal debunker, that your mind's made up. This isn't real. This doesn't exist. And I'm going to set out to prove everybody wrong.
Right.
It's that you've experienced, so you're like me. You've experienced so much that you know it's real.
Oh, yeah.
But what you want to make sure is that the ones that are out there faking shit are basically called out for their shit.
Yeah, knock that crap off.
Yeah, because I can. When I was living in Alabama, and one of my favorite experiences I ever had, and this was probably the one experience that instantly made me think, okay, I can no longer discredit anything in the paranormal at the moment. I need to take a closer look at this. One of the first places that my team ever investigated was a place called the Old Coffee County Jail in Elba, Alabama. It's a very small town. If you drove through it and blinked, you probably missed it. And we pull up. We had to go through the freaking mayor, the Chamber of Commerce, get all these waivers signed, because the place is, pretty dilapidated.
Right.
So we go in, and upstairs they have this bullpen set up. It's basically a bunch of cells just thrown into one spot with a bunch of beds. The bottom floor, it had 4 cells that were drunk tanks. Basically, 1 cell, 4 bunks. You throw your drunks in there. I don't know why they needed that many drunk tanks in that small of a town, but apparently someone there has an alcoholic
Nothing else to
problem.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing else to do.
And so the last cell on that particular area was a lone solitary cell. 1 little tiny window and a door that's about this thick. It's pretty thick. So it hadn't been opened in so long that the hinges were rusted shut. It took 3 cans of WD-40 and 5 people to get this door open.
Wow.
Wow.
We finally get it open, and I set up a camera at the end of the hallway facing the door from the outside, and I have another camera faced inside the cell. I go in there and I start doing audio work. I'm in there for about 25 minutes. I'm doing audio work, and I hear this weird pop, and I was like, what is that? All of a sudden, the cell door that just took all of us in that WD-40 to open slammed shut on its own volition.
What?
I was stuck in there for an hour.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
And if there was ever a I about crap my pants moment, that was
Now, did you feel a presence in there with you after that?
a little bit, but I didn't catch anything on the audio.
Oh, damn.
I wish I would have, but here's the thing that I did not find out until after the investigation. We investigated the actual jail on the 20th anniversary to the day of the sheriff, Mr. Neil Grantham, getting shot to death by a former inmate on the front steps of that same jail.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
So if Sheriff Grantham was there and he was walking through and he saw a prisoner in the solitary cell, would he not shut the door?
Close
Shut
the
the
door.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think it was. Now, the odd thing was both cameras that were focused on that door died at the same exact time that the door shut.
What?
We've had that happen too.
Uh-huh.
We have had that happen as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Right as poltergeist activity too.
Battery
Trained
real
on
big.
trained on 2 separate cameras by 2 separate teams, ours and another. Trained on cars down in a basement that we've seen move with our own eyes. And as soon as we saw one move, we were like, we fucking got it. Both cameras had died.
Yep.
They were both,
That's
So
insane.
we didn't get anything at all.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And that's why I'm always a firm believer in bringing a battery tester on an investigation with you. A lot of people don't utilize one, but it's actually really smart because you test your battery before you put it in the equipment. If your battery drains, you test it as soon as you take it out of the equipment. That way you can tell legitimately if the battery died or if it was just a malfunction of the equipment itself. It adds credibility to the fact of the equipment you're using.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking of equipment, I know on your YouTube page that you look at different apps on the phone, paranormal apps, and see which ones are worth and which ones aren't. Now, I know a lot of people
we get
that's
asked this a lot.
right. That's very
Yeah.
like the phone apps are very controversial.
They are.
What do you
Because the
think?
phone
Like,
has a
right.
microphone.
Absolutely. And there's algorithms and microphones and everything involved. Is there one that you have seen that you're just like, this is the end all be all, this is legit?
So actually, I think you'll be interested to know that by the end of 2025, I have a book coming out on paranormal applications that
Nice.
I wrote based off of my experiences testing them throughout my YouTube time.
Oh,
So here's the thing: there is an app put out by a man named Michael Weber. It's called the Ghost Hunter M2 app. So he recently released a new version called the Ghost Science M3, which he loves my review of his app so much he sent me a copy of that for free. So that'd be on my season 2 of the app test.
That's called, wait a minute, it's called Ghost Science M3?
Ghost Science M3, which I have not tested yet, but I really enjoyed the Ghost Hunter M2 app. So this app has pretty much every tool you could think of. Like when you pay $9 for this app, which is a little bit expensive for an app, I personally don't like paying that much for one. It's worth it. The amount of tools you have. You have a gyroscope, you have a lux scope that actually can detect the lumens coming into your camera lens. So,
wow.
Okay.
And I've tested that thoroughly and it works. So in theory, you take that, you put it in a dark room, it's going to read 0 lumen, right? If there is a spirit going off of the theory that they emit their own light and it passes in front of that, it's going to reflect it on the luminosity. So it's a really cool tool. Never seen it before. It's got a barometer. It's got all kinds of things. And I know some people out there are like, well, how does your phone know the barometric pressure? How do you think your phone knows how many flights of steps you walk up?
Right.
Every phone does have a small barometer in it. To be honest with you, all these people out there use all of this physical equipment and they don't trust a phone because it's a phone, right? Turn it on airplane mode before you use the app, for one, if you're worried about any kind of interference. Turn it on airplane mode. Very, very simple. But if you think about it logically, every single sensor that we use, whether it be a REM pod or, motion censored music box, all this other stuff that we use, right? Your phone probably has more sensors than all of the pieces of equipment combined. Now, I'm not a fan of the EMF detectors in phones. I will say that.
Well, I was going to say though, you said you turn on the airplane mode whenever if you're worried about it. Could that app not be using stored data to give you what it thinks you want, even if the airplane mode is on?
I can tell you that from my time of using apps, I have never had a name pulled from my contacts. Every name I've gotten is a name that I've probably never said before.
Okay.
I have not noticed any kind of trend as far as any data that is actually stored on my device.
Okay. Well,
So-
because I think that everybody's hang up about it is like Shelly said, is that now, I mean, I've used several myself, that I don't know. It just didn't feel legit just because it did feel like it was spitting out something that maybe it was picking up on. And I think that's everybody's hang up is that, yes, there is an audio input on your phone, a microphone on your phone. And so therefore, is it just as we always say,
Is it
Facebook's listening, and then you see the ads pop up because, whatever. That the apps work the same. And I mean, on some of them, I would say that's probably true, but there's one, I will say there's one, Vox, that I have used Vox before. I'm not giving my stamp of approval. I'm just telling a story that whenever we were using it, it was not just giving us relevant answers, but the relevant answers it was giving was tying in with a spirit box that was saying the exact same thing, that was tying in with a person saying the exact same thing that was in the Estes method.
Interesting.
So that little trifecta was kind of cool, that the Vox was working and giving us the same answer across three different.
And the Vox
mediums.
was also agreeing not only with the spirit box, but also not only with the digital medium, also with an analog medium, because you were throwing spirit dice at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was throwing spirit dice at the
So
same
we
time. Yeah.
did have that one agreeing. Again, we're not putting our stamp of approval on it. We think that one's one that if you're going to play one, go with the one that Nathaniel said, not the one that we're saying. But yeah, I've used quite a few, and I have found that I've actually tried. I've turned it on and I've walked through and I've just randomly said things like, I heard that Peter killed a man in the basement, and I just start walking, and I'll be like, hey, is there anybody that's here? Basement. Peter killed man. And I'm going, no, delete.
Yeah, because there has definitely been a few that I've tested that you could tell were preset responses by the programmer. Because they're repetitive. It's literally the same responses over a time frame, and it plays in a loop basically. And you got to watch out for those. I will say another one that I enjoyed was the Iovolus by Digital Dowsing. Digital Dowsing is a very, very respected company when it comes to making paranormal equipment. So I feel like if they put their name on it, I'm okay to try it. And also another thing about the private data, the data on your phone, almost every app you download now, it asks you, am I allowed to track your data? Always say no.
Right.
And that right there is just a secondary preventive measure of it pulling anything from your device.
Right. Now, is there one that you've looked at and you were like, what the hell is this? Like, I can't believe somebody would release this.
No, we're not going to say those names.
We have to say the name, but like something like a feature that you were just like, what the hell is going on here?
The Ouija board 3D.
Okay. All right. What happened?
Funny.
This sounds bad.
For one, Ouija boards do not work on a digital setup, period. Any of those apps, they're crap. Just leave them alone. This one in particular, nothing functioned.
Okay.
I could not get it to do anything. Half the time the sound would glitch out and not work. Like, it was absolutely
no. I
don't even like going back and watching the video. Mind you, I tortured myself with that app for 45 minutes. Because I wanted to give it a thorough test. I had to. And so I tried I tried deleting it and re-downloading it, thinking maybe there was a glitch, maybe that's why it's not working right. And no, I've got that one, and then there was another one that was well, I can't say it because it actually has a team name in the actual.
Okay, yeah.
So I can't say that one. But if you go to my YouTube, you'll know what it is. Just watch my facial expressions.
You're like, dear developer, back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I honestly, I appreciate the kind of the clarification on the apps, because that is one thing when we're on investigations with the public, because we sell public, investigation tickets, that they're like, what do y'all use? What apps do y'all use? Do y'all use any apps? Me, I personally just don't use them, but I'm more.
I don't either.
I work with a lot more like analog setup type stuff with the spirit dice, cards, things like that. That's just my preference. I have used them.
I agree with you. Very rarely have I ever used an app during an actual paranormal investigation.
Right.
And even if I do, anything that comes through it, I do not really count as credible evidence. It's always left to speculation. Now, there are times, good example, Medfield State Hospital in Medfield, Massachusetts. I like to go there once a year, just walk around the grounds. I love the place. I've got to know the groundskeeper very well. He's let me go into the chapel. He may be letting me go into the hydrotherapy unit soon, which a man was boiled to death, basically became meat soup in there.
Oh, man.
And horrible death. And also X-Men The New Mutants was filmed there, as well as Shutter Island was filmed there.
No way.
Nice.
Oh yeah, so very cool. The big building you see in the background of Shutter Island that has the clock on it, that's actually the church tower. And love that place. So I took an app there, and I cannot for the life of me at the moment remember the name, because it was almost 3 years ago. But I've done a lot of research. Like, my research folder on Medfield State is about 4.5 inches thick. That goes back, like, I have all of the hospital records dating back to 1922. And so, like, when I research, I research. Like, I am thorough.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that it has patient records in there as well. So when me and my daughter were walking around this facility, we got names that came through, and every time we got a name, I wrote it down. And I started going back to the logs. So every single name that we got that came to this application, I was either able to trace back to a former employee and or someone who was buried in the Medfield State Hospital Cemetery.
Oh,
No
that's
way.
wild.
Okay.
That is wild.
I love that app, and I will send you the name of it. It's one I would recommend you try.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would love
Yes.
to try it. Love
Wow.
to try it, especially since I'm the one who's always like, oh, there's somebody's got an app. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's it. You know,
I don't
Yeah, typically-
necessarily. I don't
typically when I get-
necessarily. Go ahead.
We're good. We're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't necessarily hate on apps. You know, I mean, it's just
Right.
it's trying to figure out. It's just like trying to figure out what games to play on your phone or whatever. You know, gotta figure out which one that works best for you. I guess.
Right.
Right.
And you know, and like I said, you know, I'm not a firm believer in a lot of them anyway. But they are fun to experiment with.
Right.
Now, I did kind of want to double back to something we talked about earlier. Before we get done with this interview, I have to ask you a question. You said you had your own Bigfoot experience. We can't let you leave without telling us.
Okay. So back when I lived in Alabama, I used to stay at my aunt's house a lot because my parents are fine with me talking about this. They used to be addicted to drugs for a while. And you know, I just really didn't like being at home. I would go stay at my aunt's house, and I would walk home sometimes. Pretty much when I needed a clean pair of clothes or needed to shower, I'd walk home. For some reason, I always decide to do this at about 11:45 at night. So I'm walking by this field. This field's probably about 150 yards long and probably about the same square. So it's probably about 150 yards square. It's cornfield. So they had just trimmed the corn, and it was probably about half stalk. I'm walking, and I feel this odd feeling that I've never felt walking by that field before. And it almost felt like I was being stalked or watched.
Mm-hmm.
I'm carrying this duffel bag, and I look over into the field. I'm looking around like, man, something's going on. It doesn't feel right. And then in the field, probably about 60 yards away, I see something staring at me. I could see the eyes. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. It's too far away for me to tell. And then it starts slowly coming closer. And I'm like, yep, nope. Dropped my duffel bag and ran back to my aunt's house. My Uncle Dave had one of those big floodlight things, like the handheld ones. I was like, there's something out there in the field. I don't know what it was, but we need to have a look at this.
Mm-hmm.
So fine, whatever. He thought I was just seeing things. So he comes outside, shines a floodlight out there, and we see this creature. Given the distance, obviously you have to remember distance to zoom on optics stuff. You know, it's very difficult to make an assessment of the size of something.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that the eyes had this shine that I've never seen before. It was almost a goldish blue. It was a very weird eye shine. And there's no creatures in that area that I know of that have that color of an eye shine. When it stood up, if you take a corn stalks, you know, they're taller than us, probably about what, 8 feet?
Mm-hmm.
So half size, you're looking at 4 feet. I could tell you from where I was sitting at from the distance, I would say this thing was about 3 feet over the half corn stalk. So you're looking at a creature about 7 feet tall.
Whoa.
Okay.
And we watched it slowly walk 40 yards on 2 legs into the woods.
What?
You
No
could
way.
you could see a little bit of the outline. Almost looked like a reddish color fur,
Mm-hmm.
which was very common for the Bigfoot sightings in Alabama. They say it has a reddish color fur, similar to that of the
Mhm.
skunk ape.
Right.
And so, can I positively say it's a Bigfoot? I can tell you that there's no bear in that area that are that large, and no
Right.
bear's going to walk that far on 2 legs. It was definitely furry. It was
Mhm.
definitely big, and it walked off into the woods. And that was the only time I saw that one.
Wow.
So the second sighting, and this one was more clear because it was literally right beside the car. So
Okay.
me and my ex-wife were driving back from a place called Dothan. We're on this back road. We're driving down through, and we're coming up on this narrow bridge. And I hate this bridge because there's no room for error. If another car is coming by, if you're too close, you're gonna scrape.
Right.
And we're driving, and I look over and I see this figure standing by the bridge. Reddish orange fur, for sure. Guarantee you, because I wasn't that far away from it, I would say about 8 feet tall.
Wow.
And you could see the eyes, dark brown, basically, ignore the baldness here. So basically, fur going from there out, like nothing, no fur here, just
Okay.
almost like what you would typically think a gorilla's face would look like, almost.
Right.
Going
Or like
around going around the eyes and kind of down the cheekbones.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And so arms were about the same length as what you would see in the Patterson Gimlin film.
Okay.
So it was a very clear shot that I had of this thing. We get about 1.5 miles down the road, and randomly my ex-wife pulls over. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are we stopping? And she was like,
Yeah.
she was like, question for you. I said, okay. She's like, I don't want to sound crazy, but did you see the Bigfoot by the bridge?
Oh, man.
And I was like, why didn't you stop? And she said, because I didn't want to get eaten. Okay, valid.
I mean, valid point.
Fair
Valid.
point.
Valid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wondered why those Bigfoot hunting shows use mating calls. Like, what are you gonna do if Bigfoot runs out of the woods? You know?
Yeah.
Like, you called him in. What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's gonna be pissed that you're not a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love-
Yeah.
But yeah, so those were my two encounters with seeing what I think would most likely be a Bigfoot.
So you use a mating call and he shows up and there's no female Bigfoot. It turns from a damn Discovery Plus show to a Cinemax show real fast.
Very fast.
Real quick.
I love that. Well, Nathaniel, we have come to the end of our time because I told you about an hour. We've kind of gone over that. But
That's
I tell
fine.
you, why don't you promote yourself and tell them, number one, when is your book going to be released? Where can they find you? Where can they go see you? Because we do know you're going to be at the Paranormal Rockdown. But tell them your YouTube, your everything. Promote yourself. Everything they need to know about you.
So you can find me on Facebook at Nathaniel Elwell. I'm going to be honest with you. I typically don't reply to private messages unless it's from content creators such as yourselves offering me podcast bots and stuff. But you can always add me as a friend on there or follow me. You can find me on Twitter at Paranormal Nate. I don't use Twitter very often. You can find me on Instagram at Nathan Elwell. You can find me on TikTok at Static Voices. You can find me on YouTube at Static Voices. I don't have a clapper. I hate the platform, so don't even ask. As far as other things I got going on, my book right now, the tentative release date is I'm aiming for sometime in the fall. We did have a little bit of an issue with the publisher. He wanted me to shorten the book a little bit and or cut it into 2 parts, but I refused to do that. I wrote it as one cohesive unit, and that's how I wanted to stay. So we got that going on. July 12th and 13th, I'll be in Connecticut at the Paranormal Convention and True Crime Conference with Thomas Patrick Gormley. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to have fun. Obviously, July 18th and 19th, I'll be at the Rockdown in Wisconsin. Really looking forward to that event. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys. September 6th and 7th, I'll be at the Maine Paranormal and Horror Convention up in Augusta, Maine. November 15th and 16th, I cannot announce it yet, but I'll be in Salem, Massachusetts at an undisclosed event, and there is a plausibility, not sure yet, that I'm going to try and make it out to the Penhurst Paracon.
Ooh,
Nice.
that'll be fun.
Nice.
Yes.
I was gonna try and make the Gettysburg Bash this year, but unfortunately, I have 2 events, 2 weekends in a row. I'm not gonna tire myself out or overwork it.
Oh, we do that all the time.
Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about on that. No.
I know, man. We're doing Rockdown and immediately going to Gettysburg right afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Oh man,
We're driving
Well-
straight across because we're way down in Texas, so we have to drive all the way up, and then we're gonna go all the way across. We're gonna come all the way back down. So
that's
Oh,
rough.
boy.
That's
we're
rough.
just gonna make like 2 weeks out of it. It'll be fine.
yeah,
Hey, you know what? Road trip.
absolutely.
Road trip. That's exactly right. Well, thank you, Nathaniel. And with that, Blake, if you'll hang with us just a second so we can till the end of the show so we can thank you properly. Blake, why don't you tell them everything they need to know?
All right, sounds good. We got a few announcements as well. So if you want to support the show directly, check out our Patreon page. It is linked in our link tree, which is going to be posted Wednesday morning on our Facebook and our X profiles or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. For just $5 a month, you'll unlock over 450 exclusive videos that include the pre and post broadcast, which is the 30 minutes before and the 30 minutes after this live broadcast. If you're not sure about joining Patreon, try it risk-free for a 7-day free trial. Make sure you stay connected with us. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, many more by searching Everything Vaguely Paranormal and looking for that green sound wave. We are still close to our next goal. We're inching there closer and closer on YouTube. So make sure you go over there and subscribe on our YouTube channel for us. And remember, all you audio listeners, you can catch us live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to meet us in person, you do have quite a few choices. The next one up is May 30th through June 1st. We will be in DFW area at Fan Expo at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, along with Chad Wandell from Ghost Geeks. We will also be at the Paranormal Rockdown at Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin on July 18th through the 19th. Then we're off to Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, July 25th through the 27th in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Then September 3rd through the 6th, we will be in Vernal, Utah for Phenomicon 2025. Yeah, that one just got landed today. 19 and a half hour drive for myself.
Oof.
And finally, we'll be attending
fine.
we'll be attending the Rock Island Roadhouse Esoteric Expo on October 4th in Rock Island, Illinois. So make sure you subscribe to our
with 2 potential still to come.
Yes.
yeah, with more still to come. Hence why we haven't had public investigations yet. But make sure you subscribe to our Eventbrite page so you can be notified when those tickets do go on sale. We are grateful for your continued support. So if you have a favorite episode, share it with your friends and make sure you tag us. If you have a story, comment, or question, or if you want us to be guests on your podcast, you can send that to the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Go like, share, and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Yes, sir.
That actually reminds me that I do have my own podcast coming out soon. It's supposed to start probably the end of this month is when I plan on having the first show out. I'd love to have you guys on.
Oh, awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Love to
Let us
be
know.
there. You send us the information and we will be happy to help promote it or
I'd like to
do whatever
reverse
you
the
need us
roles
to.
and ask questions to you for once.
Yeah, there you go.
Good luck.
Sounds
He
good.
has no idea what he's getting into.
No.
Nope, he doesn't.
But that's okay.
we kind of
wanna-
behaved tonight.
We did behave.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight on Everything Vaguely Paranormal. We want to thank our special guest, Nathaniel Elwell, the paranormal investigator and the paranormal evidence debunker. Check him out at the Static Voices or Static Voices on TikTok and on YouTube. Go check out all of his stuff. Take a watch. See what he's showing you. So for myself, I'm Shelley Pruitt. My partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Mr. Ryan Roberts. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
guys for having me on.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, man.